Hello guys, welcome back to the Renegade Dyspraxic YouTube channel. This is Alex, and in today's video I'd really like to talk to you about depression. I know this is a bit of a serious subject, and obviously, thankfully myself, depression is something which I don't really have too much of. To be honest, I seem to suffer more with anxieties, but I am aware of many people with dyspraxia who do seem to be suffering with depression as well. And really, in this video, I'd like to just share some insights as to what you can do if you happen to be, experiencing as Winston Churchill used to call it, the black dog. Because even our famous wartime leader used to suffer from depression. To begin with, if obviously depression can be different from person to person, meaning some people can have a mild depression which lingers for a few days and goes away, whilst for others it can be for a series of months in a non-stop mild depression, whilst for others the depression can be quite severe, and likewise it unfortunately doesn't seem to necessarily follow a particular time span. And if you happen to be in the midst of depression at the moment, I would like you to know that obviously things aren't exactly as bad as you're seeing it. I think it's difficult, I imagine, but you have to kind of accept the fact that maybe the way you're seeing the world, because of the I dare not use the word illness, but I suppose the disorder or illness you've got at the moment, if you forgive me if that's offending you by calling your depression an illness, but for the sake of debating this video, we'll say it is. Because of this illness, you're obviously not seeing the way the world it really is. And when just do take note that when this episode passes, you will again feel better, and there are probably many things in your life at the moment which are going quite well or have potential for being positive benefits. But due to the fact that you are currently in the midst of a depression episode, you're unlikely going to be able to appreciate or even realize you have that, because the mind will obviously tend to focus a lot more on the negative. So obviously, if you are depressed at the moment, what are your options? What can you do to help yourself? Well, the first thing I would strongly recommend, if your depression is something you haven't told others before, is to speak to someone that you trust and know who can help you. Ideally, if you haven't already, I would recommend going to see a doctor or a medical expert, and perhaps getting yourself booked into some form of therapy, whether that be cognitive behavioural therapy or other therapies I'm trying to think of are talking, speech therapy, not speech therapy as in linguistic therapy, but more speech as in talking therapy, where you speak to someone who can relate and understand and try and help you find a way out. If your depression is also severe, you may need to consider going on some form of antidepressants or medication, perhaps just temporarily until the particular episode passes. Or maybe you, like many of us, you might need to be on the antidepressants for an ongoing basis. You can trust me when I say that I know for some people there's a bit of a stigma with regarding taking antidepressants. They think that somehow it affects who they really are and their ability to fully function. And I can tell you that's nothing, not in any way true. There are friends I know who have been on antidepressants for most of their lives, and they're doing absolutely fine. In fact, they're probably functioning, doing better when they're on the medication compared to when they're off it. So obviously the medication, but apart from speaking to someone, other things you can do, which when I've had I say mild blues, but I wouldn't really call it obviously depression. As I was saying to you earlier, my issue tends to be more anxieties. Is I find that writing gratitude lists, where you sit down if you can and just try and think about positive things or things to be appreciative about in your life. I know this is obviously probably not going to help for those of you who have more severe depression, but for those of you who have more of a milder depression, this might be of help, because it might be able to shift your thinking into a more positive frame of mind. Also, there are many other things as well you can do. Some people say that the practice of meditation can help in the long run with regarding the easing of depression. I must add, however, that if you're actually doing or experiencing a severe depression at the moment, then it might not be wise to go straight into a meditation, because quite a lot of the meditative techniques I'm aware of focus on trying to experience more of what's going on around you and within you. And if you're already in a severe, depressive state, the last thing you probably want to do is to try and go further into that depressive state and soak it up more. Obviously, I'm not really an expert, so that's just my advice. But of course, if a medical expert or someone who knows about depression informs you do that, then obviously follow his advice more than mine, I would say, because in this area, obviously they probably know a lot more than I do. I'm only giving you a overview of, or a simplified view, I should say, of depression and things that you could do. But I think the main part of really coming back, I would like to get across to yourselves is that, unfortunately, with dyspraxia, depression seems to be very common. I mean, I was reading somewhere that most people with dyspraxia seem to have bouts of depression or ongoing anxieties. And as I've said several times, I know I'm definitely the anxious type of person, but I know there are people, many of you listening and watching, who would have both, or would unfortunately have depression, just the depression. And if that is the case, really, I'd just like to get across to you that you're not alone. Many people out there are in the same boat as yourselves. And I'm not just referring to people with dyspraxia, but people who are not dyspraxic also have depression. So you're not in any way alone in that way. There's lots of resources and help out there, especially if you go online. You can also, give the Samaritans a phone call if need be. I will leave their number in the description of this video below. And really just to say that if you are, obviously in whether state of depression, the last thing to do is just sit there and to suppress the feeling and try and carry on with your life, because as you probably witnessed from previous experience, that doesn't really seem to happen or seem to work too well if you try and suppress your depression. So do seek out the assurances from others, and of course remember that there's lots of information out and available, resources around that can help you out. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'll do my very best to answer them, although I will add that I'm not an expert when it comes to depression, but I will try and help you in any way I can. Also, of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to give this video the thumbs up if you like it. Till next time, I'll speak to you soon, and hope you all feel better if you are feeling down at the moment. All the best.